The Waco Tragedy. Welcome to Tricky Mickey. Please support this channel by subscribing, share, and like. Spread the word, Tricky Mickey is here. At the end of the video, please leave a comment at the bottom. Thank you. In this episode of Tricky Mickey, we're going to examine the bizarre death of the Waco Branch Davidians. The Waco Tragedy occurred in the early 1990s when the United States government enacted a very harsh attack on a compound, private property. This was a branch of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. These people believed completely in the Bible, in the apocalypse that was coming. So they bought this property in Waco, Texas, and they were devoted to their faith and their follower, David Koresh. And without bothering anybody, they practiced their religion, the right to worship. The branch of our righteousness. These individuals welcome everyone and they help the community. There was no bad record on them. They didn't have any type of felony on their records. But the community around their religious order, they began to become suspicious, envious. Somebody said something really evil. The Branch Davidians. The Branch Davidian tragedy. Outside Waco, Texas, was a religious cult called the Branch Davidian. Its leader, David Koresh, was stockpiling weapons and was accused of sexually abusing girls. This occurred in 1993. The A.T.F. raided the complex and encountered a firefight with Koresh and his followers. David Koresh. David Koresh was a very charismatic Christian leader of his branch of the Seventh-day Adventist. He led people peacefully in prayer and instructions of the Bible. He did not have a criminal record. All he wanted was for him and his followers to be left in peace. And there they conducted, in a very secluded manner, their faith. Someone dropped a dime and made an accusation. The reason why on March the 8th, 1993 in Dallas, Texas, the United States government got involved is someone called on the phone and said that they were abusing young children. There was never any evidence proved about this. So the government nevertheless decided to start preparing for an invasion of these people's private property. The government to the rescue. The government drew first blood and attacked the compound. Unfortunately, the followers of David Koresh were ready for this, and they fired back. They were defending their wives, their girlfriends, their children, their faith, their leader. And according to our American belief system, you have a right to defend your household and the people that you love. As you can see in this picture, the armed forces of the United States came in like an occupying army, a force to be reckoned with. Who were they up against? These people were on their private property, worshiping in faith. There was no evidence of any sexual abuse. For death, the beginning of the horror to come. An armed personnel carrier arrives at the Branch Davidian cult compound on Monday, March the 1st, 1993. And unfortunately, 4 federal agents were killed in a gunfire on that Sunday morning. This was reported by the Dallas Morning News. People have a right to defend themselves, especially when they're being invaded. Shoot first, think later. This is the mentality of the federal government. They need to protect themselves, but not the people that we are expected to be defended by. Religious sect descended from Seventh-day Advent, suspected of inappropriate sexual encounter with children on ranch. On February the 28th, 1993, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearm, the A.T.F., attempted to search the Davidian branch, and that's when the gunfire occurred and a subsequent 51-day siege by the federal government against this religious cult. The shootout at Mount Carmel. Within 51 days, there was a standoff. The American government was losing patience with these religious cult fanatics, the Branch Davidians, who had not harmed any of their neighbors, who had not shown any aggression, who were just practicing their faith on their private property with their family, their loved ones, their children. And someone who just did not like them falsely accused them. This was the reason why the government conducted itself in this manner. All it takes is for someone to make a false accusation, and without the government really taking time to investigate, they just attack first and they think later. The last assault. As you can see in this diagram, the government made out a plan. They decided how to attack the compound in order to rescue the children, who apparently were not in danger from anyone. There was no evidence of this. But the government needed an excuse to make an attack, to violate private property, to seize firearms that people have a right under the Second Amendment to have, to practice their religious faith in private, to be basically left alone from government intrusion. So the government decided a plan to attack its own citizen in their own home. They were not safe. Neither are you, neither am I. This is the extent the government will do if you dare stand up against them. The government is not your friend. Before the fire, you're looking at a diagram of the compound before the fire that would engulf all of these innocent people, including the children. As you can see, this was a very strong place for these people to practice their religion in peace and tranquility without bothering their neighbors. And it was very self-sufficient. Moving in on the compound. As you can see in this other diagram, several holes were knocked in the compound by an armed vehicle at this location where you see the black line pointing to this. When the government did this, something happens. The compound blew up and engulfed in fire. But the question is, who set the fire? The government said, we did not do it. We wanted to rescue people. The government attacks with a tank and hell on earth begins. As you can see in this photograph, the whole thing blew up. It blew up in their faces. And these poor civilians who had no criminal records, all of them died, including their wives, their girlfriends, and their children, in this conflagration that was hell on earth. This inferno was the result of the government's bad tactic in attacking this home. Americans are burning. As you can see from this aerial photograph, this building is completely engulfed. The government says they were not responsible for this. If they are not responsible for this, who is? I don't believe that David Koresh nor the Branch Davidians would set themselves on fire. They were Christians. They believe that the kingdom would come. The children are dying. Now the building is more engulfed, and everybody in there is dying by fire and asphyxiation. This is what happens when the government decides to step in order to save people. This plan obviously failed. The government failed these people. The government failed everyone. To this day, there is no explanation as to what happened. There was nothing that could be done. Nothing to save these people. The fire spread very quickly. This incendiary occurred in such a grand manner that no one can provide any explanation, not even the expert in government. They don't know what happened. And we're supposed to believe this. We're supposed to take the word of the government. The government wins. As you can see, proudly waving the American flag, the federal government's tanked the ones that broke into the building and caused the fire to occur. Their plan set into motion this conflagration that destroyed forever so many innocent lives. The government has never apologized for this and has never provided an explanation. Do you trust the government? Are you sure you can trust your government? Waco, Texas, 80 plus dead, including at least 20 children and 2 pregnant women. This is the legacy of the federal government under President Bill Clinton and Janet Rino, the Attorney General of the United States of America, who took responsibility with pride and saying, "It happened under my watch, is my responsibility." Oh, good for you. A job well done, more money for you. A.T.F. The A.T.F. customer service in Waco, Texas. Aren't you glad the A.T.F. was just awarded the largest budget in the entire history at that time, $773 million of our taxpayers' money in order to help keep our society safe? Yes, they're doing an excellent job in keeping people safe. To this very day, we have the A.T.F. to thank for their excellent service in Waco, Texas. Attorney General Janet Rino. Janet Rino was the Attorney General under President Bill Clinton, and she, as I stated, took responsibility for this. But she stated, and this I quote and paraphrase, "If anybody believes that we are responsible for setting the fire that destroys so many lives, is just totally and completely unfair, and they shouldn't say things like that." The people speak. This is what the American people think about Waco, Texas. Clinton, murderer, rapist, Waco killer, draft dodgers, traitor, draft dodger, impeached the president. Eventually, President Clinton was impeached in the House of Representatives for the scandal of Monica Lewinsky. But no one has taken him to court domestically or internationally for the death at Waco. It happened during his presidency. He does not take any responsibility. Neither does his criminal family. The government has blood on its children on their hands. These dangerous criminals were executed without trial in Waco, Texas, US of A, on April the 19th, 1993. All of these children, with all the hopes and possibility of what they will bring into the world, will never be realized because our government does not care about you, me, your family, my family. The American government did this by the actions that they took. Honor all the innocent dead. Waco, never forget. We should never forget all the innocent lives that are dead by the hands of our government. Yes, we will never forget Waco. We need to remember that these people died a horrible death by fire that was started by the United States government. No matter how much they deny it, they must take responsibility. Victim of the government. Whatever you think of David Koresh, he died in the conflagration with his children. He was on his property, and this is what the government did to him. in his father's hand, David Koresh, August 17, 1959, April the 19th, 1993. We will never know what happened there because the government covered up the evidence. Rest in peace. To all the innocent individual, this marker was put on Mount Carmel's center. What was left of the Branch Davidian individuals, they have reoccupied their land, their religious site, and this is dedicated for all those who lost their lives. And no one has avenged them. Please support my channel by subscribing to Tricky Mickey. Thank you. I thoroughly enjoy bringing you all of these videos for your intellectual edification. The whole purpose is to have you look at all the evidence, all the facts, evidence, details, and proof, and let you make up your own mind as to what conclusion you're going to draw. Please be careful when you watch the television. It's full of propaganda. Its design is to confound your mind. Thank you for listening and watching this video. Please support this channel by subscribing, share, and like. Please leave a comment at the bottom. This is Tricky Mickey saying thank you, and until next time, bye.